Welcome to The Girl Herd,
where we talk Texas football.
and a bunch of takes you've probably already heard.
But not from us. Hey, y'all. The Girl Herd here. We got Devin, Angie, and Michelle all together today after the A&M game. And wow, did we have a fun weekend and a fun win over Little Bro.
It's great. I mean, could you ask for a better last game? I think going in, again, I told y'all last week, my spidey senses were very normal, which means we were going to win, but I just didn't know if I could actually trust them for this one, and it all turned out perfectly.
Yeah, I think it was the perfect ending to a Thanksgiving week. And it's funny, we had the same conversation. My cousins came over here Wednesday night, and my cousin was like, I don't have any stress. She felt like you, Devin. Like, I have no worries going into this game, and I don't know if I should be nervous about that. And hey, everyone knew their assignment on Friday, from the fans to the players to the coaches. Everybody was in alignment, and it just was epic.
One of the really cool things since we were at the game, and I'm sure maybe people who y'all are friends with that watched it and didn't go, my dad had heard from many people who watched it on TV that they kept on referencing that the students had to drive back because the game was Friday. You know, they leave for Thanksgiving break and they all came back. And the student section, I mean, if we're going to do shout outs, they need a big one. It was bursting at the seams, the biggest I've ever seen the student section. They couldn't even all fit. So shout out to the school for letting them all in, but also shout out to the students and just every single video I see of them, because we sit right behind the students. So sometimes the effect of what they're doing, we see it, but we don't see it. And so the videos facing them, I mean, that area was rocking the entire way, and I loved it.
Yeah, we kept talking about like how will DKR be and if we can like really tell from our seats or what it's like. And I mean, man, like that was such a vibe on Friday, and you could feel it, you could hear it, all the above. And then of course watching it, I watched it back and you can hear it on TV, and we had made them have several delay of games. But I mean, I will say that there were a lot of Aggies there too. So like while our stadium was packed, you know, everyone kept being like, how many Aggies are getting tickets? And I was like, I don't know, you can ask that about any game really, or like us playing at Kyle Field, how many, you know, we got. But there were a lot of sprinkled in Maroons, so they showed up and showed out as well. But DKR held it down.
I was surprised watching it back too that you could hear them. Mm-hmm. Like in times that we were quiet, like you could definitely hear the Aggies. And I was like, whoa, I feel like I didn't recognize that in the game as much, but through the broadcast, you could definitely hear it.
Was there a difference, Michelle, of how many people they had at our stadium versus ours at theirs? Because you were the only one last year that went to the game at Kyle Field.
I know. I was trying to think of that. And I mean, there was a good amount of burnt orange, but I mean, I feel like it's like any game, right? Because like everyone I kept getting asked, like, how many tickets did y'all give to Aggies? And I was like, wait a minute. The first time we started playing this was last year at Kyle Field at their home. And did anyone ask me how many tickets we got allotted, you know, like to go? But
I think it's a valid question, though, because like the out of conference games, it's like a very public thing. And then like, of course, the neutral one at OU, like we know the allotment, or the bowl games, not the OU one. So I bring it up because I'm curious, because I don't know if either one of you got to watch Ohio State or Michigan. I was in shock. Like their entire end, it felt like whenever we played them in the out of conference game, I was like, why did Michigan let so many Ohio State people into this game? Like I couldn't believe it, which was nothing like our game.
Yeah, that's what happens too with all of these third-party ticket sales. Is like, I wish, we've talked about this before too, Michelle, like with your tickets, and you wish there was a button, right? Like, are you a Texas fan or are you the opposing team fan, and knowing like who you can sell your tickets to?
Well, they don't lie. I mean, you have to verify
that's
that,
true.
right?
That's true. But still,
you never know. Verify it. Yeah.
I think you want, like, that's the thing though, is like somebody asked me and I was like, it's hard. Like these are the types of games where people want to sell and make their money for a season too. So like, they don't really care who it is that are buying them, but these are the types of games is why I have season tickets and I want to go, but I get the other side and people wanting to sell their tickets. So like, I think it's, with third party, like you have no idea how it was. I mean, it's, you know, I think about it too, of like when we were walking through campus, there were tailgates of just A&M people, and the same could be said when I was at Kyle Field, but I know like my own people, there were a lot of people that didn't go into the game, right? There's a lot of people that come and tailgate.
Yeah. My dad said that walking into the game, it was a bunch of a sea of maroon walking away from DKR. And he was like, haha, you guys can't get in the game. And I love this for us because it worked. They always talk about a 12th man. Well, we certainly had one with our crowd, and it was something to be so proud of. And you could tell the pressure was mounting. It was like we were right up on their bench, and they couldn't hear. They couldn't do anything about it. And it was what I said in the Shorts with Inside Texas. The Aggies were not going to be ready. They talked about wine and cheese. Well, that wine and cheese was ready for them.
We were ready. I know people talk too of like, it's not scary to come to DKR. And I feel like after that game, if we can keep that momentum, it was scary for the Aggies. I'm not gonna lie. And we're giving shout outs. We got to shout out our friend Brandon, who had a little sprinkle of his pizzazz on the music the last 2 games, and it was on point.
Yeah, I thought a lot about it of like, of course, looking at the crowd and what was happening and us talking all about going into DKR and how it was going to do. But I have to say that I felt like Aggies, like in general, watching the team and run in and everything, that I was like, man, I feel like they are kind of like, oh, this is a big moment. Like a lot of those guys haven't played at DKR, like, or really been in this environment. I mean, we haven't played back at DKR. And I mean, you said as well, Devin, like over a decade. So I'm sure that was quite the environment to come into that wasn't their own environment, But,
yeah, I mean, I think knowing what we knew going into the game, like essentially they were a playoff lock, and like we will discuss what we feel we are in a little bit on the pod. But I mean, going in, do you think they underestimated us? Like knowing what we thought they would think of our crowd and just what they probably thought of our team, do y'all think that they underestimated us coming into the game?
I think maybe a little twofold of that. Like maybe the team did, but I feel like a lot of fans that I know that are A&M were like, I'm scared, right? Like, I don't know if we're going to win this game. And I don't know if that's how their players really felt coming into the game or not, but it's a possibility. But their fans, I feel like, were nervous.
I was going to say the same. Like, I feel like the players did. They talked, some pretty good smack. There was some things going back and forth, and how maybe they thought us as Texas, and like to them, right? Like they're undefeated. So they're going in and they're like, we got this. Like, this is our year. This is like, we're going to clinch SEC championship game, like all the above. Again, like already clinched the playoffs. Like, what does this game like really matter? But no, we want to beat Texas. But however, yeah, like, in talking to a bunch of the fans, we talked about it before the game as well, of like a lot of fans that you talk to were like, I don't know. Like, I feel good. I want to say yes, but like we could Aggie this up would be their comments. And that's a lot of what I got after the game of like, nah, y'all deserve to win that game. Like we really botched it kind of a thing. But here we are with a win over Little Bro. And we are their one loss of the season, which is kind of what we've talked about all year long.
Well, not them only having one loss. I wish that they had more losses, but we can't control that. But we did beat them, and, happy for that. I do want to give a shout out to Jack Injuries because he was such a big impact in the game, and his dad, Robert Injuries, does support our podcast and our channels and our social media. So just wanted to say, we see you, Jack Injuries. We've been looking for that tight end look all year.
Yes.
And it was his best game. So it was great to see that.
No, like how many times have we talked about that on the pod of like, we want to see more tight end plays, like get him the ball. We got him in the portal for a reason. Like, let's use him. And he showed up big on senior night.
Well, and he showed up in like Ohio State. Like there was the first few games, trickles, and then we were like, where'd he go? What happened? Like we want him back. Like when our wide receivers were having some drops, when Arch was having his struggles, like we were just like, come on, like this is when you play it up. But yeah, we're giving all these shout outs like to DKR and everything else, but like 100% our team came to play. We've talked a lot about questioning like, some things on defense in the last few games, and no, everyone showed up for this game and it was glorious.
Michael Taft, even your fave, Michelle.
My fave.
I feel there's been a lot of talk about, his stock dropping for NFL and the struggles that he's had. And of course he got injured, and just like he's had a weird year, and his stock has gone down. But in the moment when we needed him most, I mean, they were marching down the field on us again. And the game at that point was not, it was closer. So it was like, we were not guaranteed to just win. And he comes up with the ball at the goal line on an interception. And it's like, what a way for him to also go out on senior night. So just really happy to see that.
Even talk about like our team that couldn't get over 100 yards rushing all season to put up the numbers that they did was remarkable. Like exactly what I wanted to see. I hope we can just continue to build on it for next year, a little icing on the cake of what's to come. But yeah, defense too. Everybody really, even special teams, right? Like they also did an amazing job in that game too to lead us to a win.
Yeah, we said our secondary was going to have to show up and show out, and but they did. Like I was so, because obviously they had a huge passing attack, and Aggies did, and so our secondary was going to be key. And when Taft caught that interception, I was like, oh, I love this for him. I could cry because I know how much this year has been for him coming back. And then of course the last game at DKR on his senior year, it was really cool to see, but shout out to them for showing up. We had a little bit of a shaky first half on offense, I would say, but I never really I wasn't nervous because I could tell our guys were so much more locked in. But to see us come out in that middle part, second half, and just dominate, you were just like, here we go. This is what I wanted to see all year long. And
yeah. The special teams thing, though, I think was so key because the first half was crawling, and that's what kept the crowd in it. I mean, we can't downplay that at all. That block, that was just
amazing.
We were just like, yes, because again, they were marching down the field, and we were just like, this is not working, and we're worried. And then we stopped them for a field goal, and they tried to kick it, and it got blocked. Ethan Burke,
and that was right in front of us too.
Yeah.
The best.
I also love that for Ethan Burke. But it being right in front of us, in some ways you're like, oh, that's hard to see. What happened? And then you're like, oh my God, they blocked it.
Yes. I'm so glad that you brought up Ethan Burke because I was, how we talk about it, consistent effort, I feel like is textbook definition of Ethan Burke, right? That game, the man never stopped. I was like, how is he continuing to make all of these plays and just his little gas tank was never on E for the whole entire game.
Well, he said it was because of the music. So that's how he did it. He said he was fired up, and he said he loved the Mariah Carey Christmas song. I mean, I think for the players, great. Yes. And also it was the first time that I've seen Sark have fun all season. I've been talking about this so much in all of our content, whether that be social media, the shorts, or the pod. And after the game, he's like, hook 'em, baby. And he's just so fired up. And so, I mean, it was just nice to see.
It also was a party. I felt like we were at a wedding after the game. Nobody wanted to leave the stadium. The music was up. The players were dancing and all the things on the field. It just really went to the top of the list for favorite games for sure.
And shout out additionally on special teams. I thought this is what maybe you were about to mention of saying the wind. Y'all, it was so windy in there that I what they had to our kickers as well. Shipley was key. So also that part. But yeah, what a vibe of a game and what a game to end on at our home and our regular season. And I say regular season because what do we think is going to happen after this?
Devin, I'm going to let you start with this one.
Well, I mean, I really think we should let Michelle start with it. I feel like she's got the most thoughts on it, especially because I feel that, there was a tweet I shared in our chat. It's there's arguments on both sides. And I just want to put this disclaimer out here for this convo. This is by no means we're biased Texas people and we want Texas in the playoff. No duh, but that's not what we're here to discuss. We actually love the game, and we, much like in the BCS era, had all the thoughts and feels, and we're so glad with the changes they made to expand the playoff. But now it just feels like we're at this point in time where it might be time to reevaluate once again some of these auto bids for conference champion. And that's not even really what we're here to discuss. But yeah, I would love to hear, Michelle, from you on where you're at with the playoff and how you're feeling, knowing what's going to come out. And by the way, Yeah, these thoughts that we are sharing are coming out before the Tuesday selection on December 2nd. So just want to put that out there too, that everything is going to be bound to change, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and like we were, down bad after Georgia and talking about it, and I was talking about it this morning even with somebody else. Like, it is not biased. I'm glad you put that disclaimer out there as well. Like, I genuinely love the sport and look at everything and look at other teams, and I go down rabbit holes of like, who have they played and how did that go? There was a few games this past weekend. You could even look at scores and be like, dang, but no, like, there were some games where they held in, and then the fourth quarter, like the team, ran away with it or whatever. And of course, that's how I feel about our Georgia game. And I've even heard other people say it. I get so excited when they're like, well, that's not indicative of how it played out. And I was like, that's exactly what I've said, So I just think when you think about the playoff situation, you have to set your mind and your expectations to it's a 12-team playoff today. And what does that look like for you? And I think, we've talked a lot about this, but I think both can be true of whether you think Texas should be in or out. And I think there's good arguments for both. I, of course, favor more that we should be in, and more so because I think, tell me 12 teams that deserve to be in over us. Who have they played? What have the environments been? How they've played and how we're playing today. And I just think it's, the ultimate kicker is, yes, you can say all of our losses. I'm well aware of what my team has lost. I'm well aware of how close they've come in a couple games, but who have these other 12 teams played and what has the outcome of those teams been as well? Like, people forget Bama's lost to Florida State. Someone told me today, Texas shouldn't be in because they lost to a 4-8 team being Florida. Bama lost to Florida State. They're 5-7. So there's just, okay. And Bama beat Georgia, and look how high Georgia is. So there's all these question marks and things that are going on. And I think you really have to look full picture to look at it. And I think the committee has a hard decision to make and what's going to happen. And it's going to set precedents in the future of how this plays out. So I have a lot of thoughts, but those are just some.
Yeah, I think it's very, very interesting, right? Sark said this too. We are the first team since the 2019 LSU national champs to beat 3 top 10 teams, which I think speaks volumes for our team. And everybody keeps talking about the eye test, right? You look at our team on the field and how they play, and then the vice of that of okay, so then you're telling us we just need to get 10 wins. So make sure your schedule is indicative to get 10 wins. And for me, that diminishes so much of what college football is. I don't want to go and sit in all these stadiums and just watch us blow people out. That's not fun for me. I feel like it's not fun for the team. How do they even get better doing that, right? We want the competition and we want to put our team up against other really good teams. And if they get a loss or two, so be it. Or in our case, 3. And so there's so many factors to it, but again, I do think that it's silly, right? That conversation of, well, we're just going to change the schedule then to guarantee we get into a playoff. And I would hate that for college football.
Yeah, I'm not with it. I mean, I'm not with the whole I think that looks bad. Any Texas fans saying that we should take away hard game, we don't duck the smoke ever. I just think that conversation needs to be done and dead, though I understand why they're having it. It's not the solution. I also think the committee is going to understand that. I think they are going to understand and recognize and change some of the things that have happened before, just like Ole Miss. Everyone's talking about them. Mm-hmm. I don't think Ole Miss is going to not go to the playoff because of all these crazy things happening with their coaching staff being gutted, though they did it to Florida State because the quarterback was gone. They're not about to do this to Ole Miss. So I think that some different things will happen. I think that they are going to evaluate Texas differently, and I think it's going to turn some heads. That's my personal prediction for everyone who thinks that we're automatically out. Ian Boyd with Inside Texas wrote a really good article about all of this too, and I love it because he referenced boxing, which is what I said after the first game of the year. I said it would be really cool if the sport did that, and it talks about how in boxing, you want the best boxers to fight. That's what everybody waits for. And that's what Texas has done with creating the schedule that they've created. again, I understand the arguments. Now we're going to 9 SEC games, and so I totally get it. But it was one of the most watched games of the year. So what are you gonna do?
Well, and there's a couple arguments there. Like people were saying, okay, we shouldn't schedule those, but then you're kind of saying like you're assuming it could be a loss on your schedule. Well, it's going to be a loss on somebody's, right? And it's probably, it's two teams that are hoping to be close, but agreed. Like no one wants that. No one wants that for this sport. This is why we love college football. We've traveled last year to Michigan, this year to Ohio State. We love these games. We want to go. And I think to the point of like our schedule and playing 3 top 10 teams, it's that like, okay, you say Texas isn't a playoff team. Those teams, guys, are in the playoffs. Like they're a lock for the playoffs. So like, it's kind of funny when you're like, oh, okay, Texas doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs, but we played several people that will be in the playoffs and beat them. So
beat most of them. So Ian also made a really interesting point too, because like another thing that people keep saying is a ding against Texas is like, oh, we were inconsistent. He was like, name how many teams that are in the playoff right now that have been consistent though. Yeah. So like the arguments that are being made don't make sense. Georgia played in several close games as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of these teams did where they had to kind of like come back, clean it up in the second half. Like it's just not a straightforward thing.
Georgia beat Florida by 4 points and they're in the natty conversations, but we lost to Florida. We're out.
By 1 score, by the way. I feel like the way people speak about Florida, you would have thought we lost 45-21.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're going to talk about resumes and you're going to use winning against Texas on your resume, but then you want to discredit us for being inconsistent and all these things, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, you want to give them credit because they won, but then you want to discredit us for other things. I'm like, make up your mind because you can't have both.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like Ohio State's one of their best wins is against us.
Right.
I had touchdown again, but we shouldn't be in a 12-team playoff.
Yeah, and you can't tell me that Tulane is a better football team than the University of Texas.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's what you're saying, Devin, right? Like seeing the best teams play.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that, and I think that's why it's exciting because the situation has presented itself in another way that I think we will see changes to the format, and I think one of the exciting ones that I had texted you all about, I don't know who it is, so I can't tag them, but I think a couple of people had said it on Twitter, which is all of these arguments and this entire conversation that we're having. What if they take out the conference championship weekend and all of these question marks of who should get in? You're in a 1-game weekend play-in. Whoever wins is in, whoever is out, because one of them is like the Texas Vandy conversation. Well, what if we played them this weekend and then we got one of the spots? How cool would that be for college football and how exciting?
But also that's head to head. We already did that. Like,
well, I mean, I personally don't agree on that particular example because I agree with you. Somebody was saying, I think it was Savannah, who we know, and we saw her at the OU game. She had posted a question out there saying, Vandy or Texas, who should be in and why, which by the way, number one, nobody was actually answering why. And everybody was pretty much saying Vandy on her responses. And she's like, I need to know why. But I wanted to reply and be like, if only there was a way, how everyone says, if only there was a way to settle this one on the field.
Yeah.
We already beat them.
Already did.
And by the way, we were mostly beating them by a lot. They had to like come back at the end against our like very injured secondary.
Well, that's why I push back of like, don't look at just the final score, right? Like these games are, a lot is happening. If you want to do that, then why is no one talking about A&M South Carolina? Like if you anyway.
Well, we didn't get rewarded. So that's the other thing. We did not get rewarded how people said we should have for beating the number 3 team in the country who was quite literally undefeated. They're like, oh, that's cool that you did that, but like we kind of like don't care.
And then they want to downplay it like, oh, you only beat us by 10 points. I'm like, we beat you like in all aspects of the game. Like, don't downplay it. But also,
I actually think that's a good point though, Angie. I don't like that either. I'm like, since when is all of this like the points thing is weird. A win is a win and a loss is a loss. Like the whole like points thing, because that brings up Georgia again.
Yes.
Like we said, and Michelle's been saying, you have to look at the game. And obviously that one came off of the rails, which my mom asked me a question. She was like, if you played Georgia and Ohio State again this season, what do you think would happen? So I'm gonna ask y'all, because I told her mine, but I want to hear y'all's.
I think this game against A&M, Sark said, I'm ready to play you guys now. Like, that's kind of how I feel of like, Sark has his bag now, and he's like, all right, I am not going to be out coached like that ever again. So I would love to play Georgia and Ohio State again. I mean, I know I just said we've already had head-to-heads and teams shouldn't, but like, come on, we should have won.
I don't think it matters who we play. I'm rolling with Arch.
Mm-hmm.
You're what?
Also rolling with Arch.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
also like, I heard the conversation of like us versus Notre Dame, and I don't want to like poo-poo on Notre Dame and whatever, because like all of that conversation can go so much further. But like, I think it's back to the conversations of what you're saying, Devin, of like going into brackets versus playing conference games, because then you bring up these like, okay, us and BYU are on the bubble, but if BYU plays Tech and they like happen to win or loot whatever, then they could be out. And it's like, you also shouldn't be necessarily hurt for playing a conference game. And then you have Notre Dame, who isn't in a conference either, and is also in these conversations of bubbles. So I think that part is hard too. So like, yes, we're having this conversation pre the Tuesday, but like the finals are even next, or the Sunday after the conference games. So you shouldn't be punished for playing in those games.
We've talked a lot this year too about how much we despise preseason rankings and all of these things. And this year especially, right? We were number one, fell out. But then what does that also say about the system that the team you thought was number one now may not make the playoffs, and 12 other teams, I think it is, that were in the top 25 aren't even ranked anymore? Like, why are we doing this? Why?
This is what we've talked about all year long of like, okay, then don't rank people up until a certain spot. But also, this is college football, so anything can happen as well.
We've seen that this year for sure.
I know. I don't know. Guess we'll see what happens when everything comes out. For now, we ride the high of the Aggie game and see what else happens for the rest of the year.